Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America, website thisweekinamerica.us. Great to have you with us on the program. As mentioned, talking about a very special book, Once Upon a Time, a Children's Story by Barbara Cavanagh. Barbara is a high school English teacher as well as a special education teacher. She's been teaching in numerous schools in Queensland, city and country for the past 28 years. She lives in Brisbane, Queensland with her husband, 5 children, 2 grandchildren, several more on the way. And like I mentioned, she's the author of the book, Once Upon a Time, a Children's Story. Barbara Cavanagh with us on the program. Barbara, welcome to This Week in America. Great to have you with us.
Oh, thank you, Rick. I'm delighted to be talking to you.
I'm going to have to call it This Week in the World since we're talking to you in Australia via Skype on the program today. It is great to have you here. In the book, even though Barbara's in Australia, you can find the book at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, Exlibris.com. We'll give you that information throughout the program. The book is excellent. If you go to thisweekinamerica.us and go to the YouTube link there, you'll see the video version of the program, and you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about. If you go to Amazon, the same thing. Let's talk about the origin of the book, because I understand this came about as you're chatting with your daughter and you're trying to find a book that's got like a good moral story to it and something that will be meaningful for the children. Talk about that conversation, and out of that came the book.
Well, exactly. We were talking, my daughter has 2 small children, and she was talking about her children and her friends' children, and a lot of people these days want to instill the best moral values into their children without going into a lot of religion on which our democracy and yours is based, which is Christianity. And they sort of wanted a story about that would teach children the basic principles of Christianity and moral values without going into something religious. And we'd looked in religious bookshops and all bookshops, alternative bookshops, and there was really nothing suitable. A lot of things were very fundamentalist things, pushing religion heavily. Didn't want that. And in a moment of madness, I said, "Oh, I can write that book," and so I did. But it took, even though it appears a simple book of only a few hundred words, it took me a long time to get it right, to get things right. And then after the text was right, getting the book actually published and getting the paper, the print, the quality that I wanted. The colours were very important. I wanted, the first draft came back and the colours I thought were wishy-washy, and I said, no, Santa Claus's costume here is pillar box red, bright red. I don't want a maroon colour. I think a Christmas tree should be bright green and not olive green. I wanted primary colours that would appeal to the senses and stand out for little children. So apart from the text, the setting out of the book, the cover, everything, it took a long time. It took a long time.
And there's so many great messages in the book that we'll discuss on the program today. The book we're talking about is called Once Upon a Time, a Children's Story. Barbara Cavanagh is our guest from Australia, the author of the book. Cavanagh is spelled Cavanagh. The book's available at Amazon, Exlibris, Barnes & Noble. You can go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and link on directly to information on Barbara's book. So let's talk about the text of the book. And you said it really is not a simple book. You would look at it and go, oh, okay, this really is a nice book. And then you start looking at it. And let's talk about the prose, the text in the book, because this is designed, what's the age group you're trying to appeal to here?
From birth till about 80 years. So I have actually given a copy of my book to friends who've had children or grandchildren in the last year as a christening or a birth gift, and then a birthday gift. And this year some of them will be getting it as a Christmas gift. But so I have a daughter-in-law who started reading the book to her baby from birth, and I think being a teacher of literature and loving reading and books, I think every parent should start reading to their child from birth so that they just get, it's a bonding thing. You sit the baby on your knee and the closeness and the bonding thing. So from birth, but I say up till about 8, that would be year 3 in our schools here. And my other market and audience, which is growing stronger each day, it's schools and primary school teachers who are actually using this as a teaching resource for children. So I have actually, as a teacher, written a booklet, that took another long time, which is a sequence of lesson plans So that and the book come as a kit. And schools are embracing it, teachers are loving it, and they'll mainly use that in the lead up to Christmas, because the book finishes up talking about Santa and Christmas and the reason that we celebrate and have special parties with special drink and food and cake at Christmas time, and why Santa brings gifts to all of the little children and adults give gifts to each other. So in the lead up to Christmas, teachers are looking for something special to do with classes because the reports are out, the teaching for the year is finished, so they can work on this. And black line masters, we call them, so there'll be all sorts of little puzzles and things for children to do, little crossword puzzles and word searches and colouring in pages. So yeah, it's very exciting, and that niche in the market is becoming very popular here. So I'm very happy with that.
As I'm reading, it's like, yes, there are so many different lessons, and I'm thinking every time you would read this to your child or with your child or in a classroom situation, there are different stories that you can talk about, different discussions that you can have. This is not a book where you read it one time and we've got to move on to something else. You could read this literally 15, 20, 30 times and have different stories each time you read it.
Well, exactly, because it starts back in the day when there was no television or computers or cars. So it's absolutely fascinating to hear adults ask children, what would you do if there was no cars? How would you cope if there was no McDonald's? Well, hello, they're saying. What if there were no planes? How would you get somewhere? And the children, it gets their little minds thinking, which is what a teacher does. And we don't teach children content. We teach children to think. That is my motto as a teacher. Teach them to think and to see their little brains ticking over. Okay, what would we do? And then we come to, well, back in those days, there were, of course, no shops at all. So where did you buy things? If you wanted food, well, I'm sorry, you just grew your own. So they talk about what they might grow, and then we're finding that in the schools, the teachers are intending for children to have a little vegetable patch or something, and then each class grows one thing, and they swap, they barter. They say, well, we've got more carrots than we need, and you've got more apples or whatever. Can we trade? Can we swap? And then we'd say, well, that was how people used to get their food in the olden days. So, one thing builds upon another, obviously. So it's, making children think, learning about doing something for themselves and sharing. And sharing, I think, is the moral of the book. Being kind to other people, sharing things. If you have too much of something, to share it with people who do not have as much as you do.
The book we're talking about is called Once Upon a Time, A Children's Story. Barbara Cavanagh is the author and our guest on This Week in America. Barbara's last name is spelled C-A-V as in Victor, A-N-A-G-H. The book's available at the usual places, at Barnes & Noble, at Ex Libris, at Amazon. Information available at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. You can link on directly and get information on the book. It's an excellent book, and I talked before about putting the text together in the prose, and you can't use a lot of words. You have to be very economical with the words, yet the words have to be meaningful. How long did it take to put the text of the book together?
I think I did about 9 drafts before I submitted it to a publisher, before I was happy with it. And I guess I would have full-time written it in about 3 weeks, because I really concentrated. I wanted to get this done and over. I promised my daughter that my grandson would have a copy in his hand by Christmas, and that was my objective. So I worked feverishly on it for that amount of time. But the first draft I thought was divine when I wrote it. I reread it, thought this is rubbish, ripped it up, started again. So, yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, there aren't any spare words in there. Everything is like it really has a point, and that's good. It will hold the children's attention. And again, as you read it over and over again, it will become a favorite book. There are all sorts of stories you can take out of there. And you talk about a number of rules, starting with no bullying. Talk about how you put the rules together and how these are everyday things that boys and girls, young people, have to deal with on a daily basis.
Well, the main character in the book thought that everybody in the world should help other people, because sometimes people, they can't help it if they're very hungry or there's not enough to eat, and there are no shops, in those days. So imagine if people were handicapped or couldn't work or couldn't farm or whatever. So he thought, I'll make up some rules, and you'll recognise, Rick, when you read them, that millions of people still believe in these rules today. So the first one I came up with was obviously no bullying. Being a teacher, we have anti-bullying policies in our schools here. Simple things like, don't take other people's things. Ask your friends, are you okay? Can I help you? If you see a lonely boy or girl sitting by themselves, ask them to come and sit with your group. Don't say things that are not true. Share your things with people who don't have as much as you. And they are some of the rules, and that you'll get the slap from there. The words, as you said, are very simple. There are no superfluous words in this text, and it may seem childlike. There are very few words above 2 syllables, but it is meant for children to be read to, and then when they start reading, to be able to read it themselves. So I would hope there's a maturity in the style, but it's also childlike in its simplicity.
Well, you mentioned with the rules there as you were going through, and I was saying that you could go back and read this a number of times and have a different discussion topic, a discussion point every time you go back, and I think you get an example of that. There are different rules that you can break down and talk about, and we refer to it as a special book, and I know a lot of people do this on special occasions, whether it be a birthday, whether it be the holiday time of year, a symbol like that. It really has become a special book, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah, I would think so, yes. I would hope so. And I think that the little character in the book, as I said, he still today, people follow those rules, one would hope, but the climax or the ending of the story is that, and addressing children here, that if you follow these rules, you'll feel really good about yourself, and people will think that you're a very special person. So it reinforces some sort of values to the children, but who doesn't want to feel good about themselves and feel praised? And if we do that through being kind to other people and following a few of these rules for society, what a wonderful thing. What a wonderful thing.
Yes, several of the lessons that come out as you read several times through the book, Once Upon a Time, a children's story, caring about other people, sharing our resources. Time going by too quickly, a few minutes left in the program. We talked about the design, and I know that you're a gardener. You have a proud garden, and you like a lot of color in the garden. A lot of color in the book, and you really went to great lengths. I think you touched on it before, that you weren't happy with the cover, the colors with the original illustrations. Talk about how you wanted the book presented. The words are one thing. If the book's never opened and the words are never discussed, it's not going to do a whole lot of good. You really needed that presentation to be right as well, didn't you?
I did, and I needed primary colours. I needed things that would appeal to children's senses. I needed the best quality paper that is glorious to feel and smell too, because as a book lover, I love hard copies. I love to be able to hold and touch my books and feel them. But for a child, the physical, the touch of the book, the size is important. It's a square book. It's a book that I watch many children read, and I wanted something easy for little ones to pick up in their hands. I wanted something a bit different too, and I think a square book, they're not unique, but they're rarer than a rectangular book. I wanted bright primary colours. I wanted Santa's costume to be bright red like a pillar box, not a wishy-washy red, which was the first draft came to me, and I wasn't happy with the colours at all. I wanted the Christmas tree to be emerald green, the bright, lovely green. The first draft that came through, the Christmas tree, was a drab sort of an olivey green colour, and I said, well, no, we can do better than this. So here we have Santa in his glorious red costume with his big eyes, bringing a bag full of beautifully wrapped gifts, and they're all wrapped in papers of primary colours, and
It's a
lovely.
colorful...
I'm looking at a copy now, and I still love to touch and feel the book.
I'm doing the
and
same
paper.
thing. I'm sitting here and I'm watching it on the screen. And it's like, that's really impressive. And I have it in front of me, and I was just doing the same thing. I was touching and looking through it. It will, if it gets our attention, it will get the child's attention. It will be a book that they go back to many, many times and give you an opportunity if they're reading it alone, and they'll learn something as they're doing that and be entertained. Or if you're having a dialogue as you're going through that. I mentioned before, the quality of the book, it's very durable. This is a book that you can easily use for a number of children and possibly be passed down from generation to generation.
I would think so. But apart from that, I should just slip in quietly. It's not an expensive book for all that and all of the quality of the print and paper for what it is, it's not expensive. I'm getting it here into a lot of bookshops, which we call alternative bookshops, where they're standalone stores where the owner runs and owns a store. And although that doesn't stop it from getting into mainstream huge chains too, but a lot of those people may think that the book is expensive because that's a sort of store that's stocking it here, but it isn't. You can get far more expensive books than mine in Woolworths or Kmart. So it's not expensive, and for a gift for a Christmas, birthday, or christening gift, it's possibly a lot less expensive than buying any other run-of-the-mill normal things that you would buy for a child on those occasions. So, yeah, I'm very happy with it. I'm happy with the whole package.
And you can get all the information by looking at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble. Go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and link on directly to information on the book. The book is Once Upon a Time, a Children's Story. Barbara Cavanagh, our guest on the program. And if you're listening to the program and you do have maybe it's a small bookstore, maybe it's a small retail operation that has books, and you're interested in getting information on selling the book at your store, just get in contact with us at This Week in America, and we'll pass that information along to Barbara. Do you have another project in mind? You did such a great job with this. Are you working on another project?
I am. I'm actually working on a novel, which is nearly completed. Nothing like this at all, strictly for adults. It's actually a murder mystery, Rick.
Well, I'll be anxious to stay in touch with you and see how that is progressing and chat about that as well. What kind of response, a minute or so left in the program, what kind of response are you getting? You did this with your daughter for the grandchildren. What kind of response from your grandchildren, and what kind of response are you getting from other people about the book Once Upon a Time?
The grandchildren are a bit little at the moment to give their response, but from other adults, it's quite amazing that they have read it and said, "Oh, I want a copy. I want another copy. Can you send me 8 more copies?" I have friends who live in the United Kingdom, and they've bought online for all of their grandchildren. They had bought 1 copy originally. Their children saw it. They wanted a copy for all of their grandchildren, and then they'll email me and say, "Oh, I need another 12 copies," and I post it to them, actually, because I have copies here. As an author, I get a discount, so it's easy for me to facilitate in Australia. I can mail copies to people, but they're just loving it. As you said, it's a one-off. There must be similar things out there, but they think it's pretty special.
It is a special book, and what's interesting as well as you're not doing this because I think I can sell a few of these and we'll save and buy a condo for our retirement. This is a nonprofit venture for you, and you're donating the proceeds to charity.
I am, and to a couple of particular charities that are close to my heart here, and to cancer research, because I have family members with cancer, and I'm going through the journey, and I'm hoping that we find it not a cure for cancer, Rick, but a cause for some cancers. Wouldn't it be great to think that we could stop this little sucker before it got a hold of anybody?
And you would think with all the research going on, somewhere there has to be an answer. And the key to research is funding. And you're trying to do your part to assist that so they have the funds, the tools that they need to come up with a cause, and then it will fall into place from that point forward. The book is an excellent book. It's designed, once again, for children, and you'll be, as an adult sitting there reading it, learning something and thinking. It's very basic lessons about caring for other people, about sharing our resources, about taking care of other people, and really caring. The book is Once Upon a Time, a Children's Story. Barbara Cavanagh has been our guest on the program, and her last name is spelled, if you're going to Google it, it's C-A-V as in Victor, A-N-A-G-H. The book's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Ex Libris. Information directly when you go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Barbara, you did an excellent job. Thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be on your program. And hello to everybody in America. What a wonderful country you have. What a beautiful country, despite the snow.
Yes, and I did mention in the beginning, we talked about it before the program, you've never seen snow, and I wish I was in that category because we live in sort of the snow belt, the edge of the snow belt, where we get a lot of it. We not only see it, we have to shovel it. We have to walk through it every day going to work. So, and I love watching Australia when the Australian Open comes about at the first of the year because it's summertime down there for you, so I can sort of watch and wish that I was down there with you. But
at that time of the year, we say, like you do in winter, why are we living here? Why can't we live somewhere cooler? So there you go. We're human, aren't we? We're never completely satisfied.
Never satisfied. We are for a couple of days, and then we start complaining about something. Barbara, and it's been great to have you on the program. The book is Once Upon a Time, a Children's Story. You can get all the information by logging on to our website, thisweekinamerica.us.